Hello, I'm Robert Meyer. Welcome to my house. This is the home of the Phlatt River Railroad. It's actually the Phlatt River branch of the Southern Railway. It was originally begun in the late 1800s as a 3-foot narrow gauge railroad heading from east to west off of a connection near a mainline railroad that ran north and south. This north and south main line ultimately became part of the Southern Railway, but all the locals simply call it the Phlatt River. So when I was deciding to build the railroad, we had a house built, and on top of the railroad room, if you will, with a finished basement, and I developed a list of goals to be achieved, and I wanted to model a transportation system that was trying to make some money. I wanted it to be senior friendly for access. And you notice as we go that the railroad is on one level, and one big reason for doing that is as I age, I want to be able to operate the railroad seated. And you never know, I may end up in a wheelchair, for example, and that would, the height of it and the size of the aisleways would facilitate a wheelchair. Did not want a maintenance nightmare, and hence you'll see it's somewhat simple railroad. A minimum mainline curve radius 30-inch with easements. It's set in the September of 1973. I like to use a whole lot of different freight cars, not just one particular freight car such as coal hoppers. The design was influenced heavily by John Armstrong, Lance Meinheim, Tony Kester. I wanted an active interchange with a foreign railroad such as the L&N, Seaboard, Frisco, whatever. And then the normal train length design be 10 50-foot freight cars plus or minus with a caboose and possibly 2 diesel units on the front. The foreign railroads for choices when we do operating nights would be the Seaboard Coastline, L&N, Norfolk and Western, C&O, GM&O, and the Norfolk Southern. Yes, that's the original Norfolk Southern, by the way. The model railroad begins on the eastern end with the staging yard. It has 10 tracks. 3 of the tracks are devoted to the foreign railroad right here, and you'll see a track going off in the distance, and that's the connection to the live interchange. Then the other 7 tracks here, you have an engine escape, and then 6 serviceable tracks for making up trains. And at the end of it is a manual turntable right here. It's very simple in nature. It's wasn't a whole lot to it. It's got an automatic reversing mechanism to it, and it's 18 inches long. I've got a train made up here. It's headed for the paper mill. Because it's a Saturday today in late September, there's not a lot going on, and the train's a little bit shorter than normal. And so we've got a GP7 on the front end. Again, it's in Southern, and the speeds are going to be about 15 scale mile per hour coming down the track. Notice that you have access from both sides of the staging yard for the staging manager to do his work. And you see I'm sitting down, and I have full access to all of the turnouts to realign and use all the different tracks. Up ahead here, this track is a switching lead, so that any switcher that the staging manager is using does not get out onto the main line. Now, as we go around through here, you'll notice the backdrop is hand painted, and there's a piece of trim molding at the top of the sky. And what I was looking for there is kind of a picture frame type presentation, as opposed to painting the entire wall of the room all the way to the ceiling a sky blue. We're crossing over a tributary to the Phlatt River. And this comes from around behind the city of Klein, which is the first city that we encounter on our way to the paper mill. Industries here located in Klein include a large grain facility. This grain is brought in from the Midwest and is used in the various chicken houses around to raise the poultry. And then there's a house track for unloading various things. And then farther on in the distance, there's a steel fabrication facility that makes a lot of structural for buildings and such as that. Maybe piping type of structures. They got to cross back over one of the county highways here. And the train is now coming up beside the steel fabrication equipment. There's a spur that goes in, served mostly with gondolas. Gondolas carry scrap out and fabricated materials. Then they also bring in steel products from the steel mills to be fabricated. And now we're going to cross into the other room. Here you can see the train has left the Klein area, Klein City, and is coming into the Acton area and be passing by an old train station. And the local switcher is parked on the switching lead. Acton is an industrial town, and you see from the pictures that there's quite a bit of development yet to be done. And we're going to continue on down the main line past various sidings that will be in service. The first part, when the train came by, will be a chemical factory. Then there'll be various warehousing, even maybe some food processing. There's a team track for offloading flat cars and gondolas. As the train continues on through Acton, you notice the adjacent track is a passing siding, and then the next track after that you see some L&N hopper cars sitting on is the Southern Railway interchange track. And then the next track over is a house track that's usable by the switcher that's stationed here in Acton. Then as we go by, we'll see the L&N diesel has brought in some L&N cars, and are going to spot them on the L&N interchange track. And then the engine will pull forward and get the L&N cars and take the crossover, and then return back on the L&N main line. Our train is going through a cut in a curve that used to be a tunnel. The railroad had a lot of trouble with the cave-ins there on the roof, and finally decided just to daylight it. And as it enters this area, it's alongside the Phlatt River. The locomotive is about to cross over the Phlatt River, and adjacent to it you'll see a branch that goes into a tunnel. This is a dummy track that doesn't go anywhere, but it simulates an interchange to a coal mine elsewhere that's not modeled on the railroad. Now I would note that as you can see, there are no trees on the railroad. This is a construction work in progress, and there'll be quite a number of trees that will be placed on the railroad, given that its setting is in the Piedmont area in the southeast. So use your imagination as to where the trees would be planted. The coal train you see on the inner track left the staging area prior to departure of our train and is waiting in the hole. As soon as we pass by, then he's going to proceed to service the mine tipple that you're going to see just ahead. And once again, as the train comes forward, it crosses over the Phlatt River. And in the distance, you can see the mine tipple. At one time, the track that the locomotive is on right now was further to its left, almost on top of the lead going into the mine tipple. And when the coal mine system was put in, the hillside was cut away to reveal all the rocks that you see, and the main line of the Phlatt River was moved over adjacent to the cut of the hill. And this all made room for the coal mine tipple. The train is now coming into the West Eden area. Off to the side of the locomotive, you see the quarry loadout facilities that were put in it was not long after World War II. And associated with the quarry development, the Phlatt River was converted from 3-foot narrow gauge over to standard gauge. Just adjacent to our train, you see on special siding is the tourist train. And the tourist train is operated by the Phlatt River Railroad Museum, which is located on the eastern end of the branch. And they have trackage rights for a minimum of 1 tourist train per day, 7 days a week. And they bring the train in and position the cars adjacent to the station and let everybody off just before noontime, and then they park the train on this siding that was built specially for the tourist train. In the meantime, all the passengers are spending money in the town of West Eden. And about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the tourist train will back up to the passenger station and reboard all the tourists. Our train is arriving on the arrival track, of course. The box cars beside the engine at this time are on the departure track, and the return trip back will take these loads of box cars and empties of pulpwood and chipwood cars back to staging. Adjacent to where the train is, of course, the engine facilities that were put in. There's a local switcher, one of the operator jobs on the railroad. They'll be pretty busy. Got a couple of SW9s to facilitate that. The turntable you see was put in prior to the paper mill to facilitate turning engines for the Historical Society and their museum train. As the train comes in on the arrival track, I want to call attention to my mock-up of the paper mill here. This is foam core board put up there to merely represent what will probably end up being the paper mill. And you notice that the paper mill goes from corner to corner in a room, which is about 15 feet, and in fact it spills over back into the great room of the basement. This area here that sticks up with the black roof is the shipping area, The paper machine is on the other side of this wall right here and is not modeled. There'll be various tanks and other piping and that sort of thing that'll go along with all this, ventilators on the sidewalls and just all the various things that make up a paper mill. But it will be, this cardboard or this foam core mock-up will be replaced with something with a lot more detail sometime in the future. Other things that come into the paper mill here on these tracks are powdered type additives and liquid type of additives, and they're unloaded in the building there. And the cars will need to be sorted by the switcher that's located here. On beyond the nose of the locomotive, you see the main line branches off, and you have 3 tracks there that represent the back end of the paper mill. And this is where the chipwood and the pulpwood is unloaded. And actually the other side of the wall there through that opening is considered staging, and the staging manager will be removing the removable loads on the cars. I hope you've enjoyed this brief tour of the Phlatt River Railroad. I'm certainly enjoying a lot of the work that's being done. Before I let you go, I want to be sure and express thanks to a lot of people, because I could not have done a lot of this that you see by myself. Major mention is John Bost did the clouds forming. John Conworth has done a lot of the scenery. And I've had help from Phil Stead on the layout of the room, as far as, the way the tracks will be done. Just a whole host of other people that if I start mentioning too many names, I'll probably leave a whole bunch of other people out too. So while I've done a lot of the work myself, there's a lot of people that have helped me for this railroad, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing it. And of course, if you wish to discuss it with me some more, then I'm in the Piedmont division, and just look me up and give me a call. And hopefully after this COVID-19 stuff's over, I can do some open houses. So thank you for coming.